Thank you. I'm from South Africa. In the middle of South Africa, there's a place called Bloemfontein. We believe in the center of Bloemfontein, but it could be the center of the universe. You'll see one day they will discover the Big Bang there. I've left, so it's not there anymore. All right, so I'm going to talk about the Eclipse. Long-stem prosthesis has been traditionally, since Charles Neer started doing his first implants, and I think it's a bad inheritance we inherited from our hip colleagues. And there's lately been a drive towards stemless and short stem prosthesis. The advantage is being easier removal, less post-operative complications, fractures, stress rises, and stress shielding. My reason for doing this is after removing 1 or 2 long-stem prosthesis and throwing the kitchen sink, even my motorbike and everything in there, to try and reaffix some anatomy for the patient for a reverse, I decided I had enough of long-stem prosthesis and was looking for alternatives. So my journey is fairly short on my journey. My first case is done only in August 2014, 79 cases done till February 2016. I divided them in 18 months. I've done in 6 months 18, then 24, then 37. As my confidence grew with this prosthesis, I'm almost exclusively using this prosthesis now with all my cases. I'm an unbiased person. You can see I've even done 2 hemis against my will. One of them is my friend's, who goes motorbike riding with me and enduro riding. I've done 44 females, 30 males, 35 females. Ages 47, that is my friend, up to 81. Average age 65, which is a bit younger because I try to avoid the elder patients early in doing these prosthesis. Primarily for osteoarthritis, secondary osteoarthritis. We don't have rheumatoid arthritis in Bloemfontein. They were too sick to travel from Cape Town up that time in 1820. They stayed behind with Joe de Beer. So in Bloemfontein, there's hardly ever, and if I get a rheumatoid, I send them back to their ancestors, and that's Joe's privilege to treat them. So I use the standard delta pectoral approach. Like I've said, 2 hemis, 77 cemented pegged glenoids. I do osteotomy of the lesser tubercle. I reattach the subscapularis with a modified rack sack method, prescribed by Christian Gerber, to allow earlier mobilization, accurate radiological follow-up. So what I said is it's what we call a hybrid pegged glenoid, they like to call this, and it's the standard good exposure, drying and probing the peg holes, drying the peg holes, having a good pressurized cementing technique, pressurizing the cement with a syringe plunger, then keeping the prosthesis intact till the cement is set completely. And of course, what we're aiming for is completely no radiolucent lines, but 5 of my cases do have radiolucent lines, and I take full responsibility for this, and I will never do this again. The humeral component is a very short stem from 60 to 65, adaptable for version, inclination, head offset, very much a shorter version of the Univers. Geometry is such that it gives you good metaphysical fit and stability and seems to be easily revisable. So the humeral technique, just some technical things is that you must not go into, you must go very lateral to your starting point to avoid putting this in varus. And lastly, you can see what we call a twist test to make sure that it fits tightly. And we'll get back to this point because going for tightly and not snugly has led me into some problems. The results is a fairly short follow-up. Average age or average follow-up period is 9.8 months. And I decided nothing spoils results than long-term follow-up. And I break it up into 6 months to at least give you something back. Group A, 6 months, 18 cases. Group B, another 6 months, 24 cases, 10 months follow-up. And as you can see, the last group only got a 4-month follow-up. All my cases were reviewed between January and March myself because I stay in the center of the universe. It's easy to get all these patients back with gravitational forces. Group A, like you can see, got a good pre-op constant score of 24, improved to 78, very much comparable to the Eclipse. Range of motion improved dramatically. And if you look at the pictures of the patient, he even got a smile on his face and he's fairly happy. And his pain went down from a 12 to a 2. The next group, we can see there's also improvement in a constant score. The range of motion is not there yet. Hopefully it will improve till the first group. And the pain score went down. And you can see there's like a hint of a smile in this patient. The last group, she represents the last group of patients. You can see no smile. But she's at least not angry. But she's not kissing me. Constant score improving. Range of motion seemed to be improving. Still taking the odd painkiller. If you compare this on graphs, you can see there's a steady increase in the constant score, comparable very much to the one presented by my colleague here. So complications, yes, of sure, even in the center of universe, we get complications. I had 2 hematomas, which I drained 1, the other one settled. Superficial wound complications 3, all cleared up with any complications. I had 1 subscapularis rupture and 1 proximal humeral fracture. The subscapularis rupture was a male patient, a very prominent businessman in Bloemfontein. Afterwards, I learned he's got a severe alcohol history, maybe, but he's not an orthopedic surgeon. He didn't wear his sling. Apparently, he fell 2 to 4 weeks before, but he couldn't tell me when, because I think he was in a self-induced general anesthesia. Presented at 6 weeks with extreme weakness, but extremely happy. So I don't know where he'd been on anesthetic just before he arrived to me. Very limited motion, but almost completely pain-free, belly press. And what makes this, the fact that I'm doing osteotomy, I can actually see the little fragment. You can look at this arrow here where the subscapularis came off because I do an osteotomy. It's easy to see it radiologically. I went back. What made the bony fragment easy to find intraoperatively? I can remember previous years before I did osteotomy, it's extremely difficult to find that subscapularis, even after 6 weeks. It was actually impossible. Yeah, I could find it, but I couldn't put it back. It was extremely shortened, fixed and almost internal rotation. And if you look at his last follow-ups, you can already see superior migration of his humeral head, but I'll keep him general under anesthesia with his alcohol, and he continues to be happy. But I can see this is going to be my first revision case of a short stem, most probably. The fracture was a female, 67, very early in my series. Intraoperatively, I had some difficulty in getting the trials down. And I think I should have been more aware of what's going on. But I couldn't get it down, and you can see on the post-op x-rays there's a small fracture in the metaphysis. I oversized this. In the 6 weeks follow-up, you can actually clearly see the fracture, and then in the last follow-up 6 months, you can actually see the fracture there as well. And as you look clearly, you'll see the prosthesis is not completely down. I should have, at that stage, if I was more aware of the situation, maybe taken our gun to a smaller size. So this is my fault. But at least I learned something from this. It's an iatrogenic mistake. It's my mistake, not the prosthesis. I didn't trust the fixation easily. I come from a philosophy, from a cemented long stem. I stay in a free state. Everything needs to be rock solid, tight. We play rugby there. We take no prisoners. So then now changing to a little short stem, uncemented, is like a complete mind change for me. What I learned from this. Before this incident, I used bigger sizes more commonly, even up to size 13, because I keep hammering them in until I got like a tight Freystart fit. Then ever since then, I became aware it's not necessary to do this. And if you see that I'm on average in my last 9 months using sizes 0.9 smaller than I used before, when I broach, I go for snugly and not tightly. If a trial prosthesis goes down tightly, I'll go one smaller. If you're scared it's going to be a bit loose, I'll take the humeral head, make some bone fragments of that, impact it on the metaphysis, on the sides, and rather go for a little smaller size. And I've not one loosening since then, and I've been using, and that's my only fracture case I had. Radiologically, none of my glenoid radiolution lines increased so far, the 5 cases I told you about. No signs of any stem loosening so far. So I just had another slide within here is about stress shielding that I added in here. We know that stress shielding is a common fact for uncemented prosthesis. There's a study being published, I think it's Gerhard, that said shorter and stemless have less stress shielding than stem prosthesis. We know that there's a series being presented to be published by Joel Walsh on their specific prosthesis for very short stem, but if you look at their geometry of their prosthesis, and I think after the study they actually changed their design to go to a smaller design because they tend to have and I had some pictures on the other slides, it's your fault, but you can actually see the osteolysis, and I think after that, I might be wrong, and I'm sorry after people from Tonia, but I think they've changed their design to come down to another type of design. And there was also another study that has been done comparing, finding if you got a high metaphysical fitting ratio of your prosthesis towards your metaphysis, and a diaphysial ratio from prosthesis to diaphysis, there definitely tends to be much more stress shielding. So from there on, I decided to go to smaller prosthesis to try and avoid this. I haven't seen any stress shielding changes or bone adaptations in my series. I had some nice pictures there for you. But I'm a bit worried about these ones that I went for canal filling initially, early on. So in conclusion, I accept this is early in my career, early in my journey. Short-term stem prosthesis gives good results for pain relief, movements, and comfort for living. Some technical hitches can occur, especially regarding the sizing, but they can be preventable. So learn from our mistakes. Radiological follow-up has no sign of component failure or loosening as yet. Results seems to be comparable with other studies on long stem prosthesis and other short stem prosthesis. So why then a short stem? This will be an easy revision. I don't have to throw in a kitchen sink in my motorbike to try and revise them. I don't believe in platform systems as they are at this present, because just adding on to a reverse doesn't make sense to me. Thank you very much.